Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tell Skel. Today we've got a friend and a teammate, Stefan Mueller. Stefan plays with me here in Tormenta this year. The main man's played all over the world, playing football, and now obviously finds himself as my teammate. So Stefan, to break the ice, how are you doing today, boss?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's a pleasure to be on here. I'm happy to talk, man. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. I mean, we had a little game yesterday, didn't we? We had a little scrimmage
We
match.
did.
It went first 90 minutes in a while with everything that's been going on with Corona. You've woke up a little bit stiff or what?
Honestly, not too bad, actually. Yesterday during the game, I felt like it could have gone a little bit longer, but not too bad.
Yeah, you've got yourself in good shape. Been working hard. So, Steph, just to get the conversation flow a little bit. Background on you. Where do you come from?
Yeah, so I'm 24 years old right now. I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. A little bit about my playing history. After I played club and academy in New York, I went on to college in Philadelphia, where I played at Temple University for all 4 years. I finished up there in, 2017 I graduated. So 2013 to 2016 I played, finished up in 2017. Went on to play a little bit in Germany. Came back from Germany, went over to England next, and then now I'm in USL League One with Tormenta.
So I mean, as I was say, you've went Germany, England, and then you've come back to your roots in America, right?
Yeah, that's the brief story, but a lot happened in between there. But
I can imagine, because I mean that's not like that's not just like a couple hours drive down the road, new club. That's like a 10-hour flight to Germany and then a few hours across to England. I mean. So how, to break that down a little, mate, you've obviously talked about Temple there. How was your college experience to start off, right at the start of like your kind of career? How was that for you?
I had a good experience in college. I was very fortunate where I was going into a situation where I was starting right away. So my freshman year, I was pretty much right into the lineup. I think throughout college, I only missed 2 games due to injury, but I started 70 other games. So I was very fortunate in that aspect. And I had a good college career. And the next thing on my mind was always taking that next step into the professional ranks. So that was always the goal from when I stepped into college to when I was leaving. So I was trying to pursue that next opportunity.
That's what I was going to ask you, Steph, because obviously being English, coming across to America, you obviously have you're here for a degree and to get the hope of getting a professional contract, but you come all this way with the mindset of I'm going to be a pro. So I was interested to hear you say there you were the same. I'm going to college. I want to be a pro.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my parents would ask me what I wanted to major in college, and being 10 years old, I didn't know what that meant. So my answer was always soccer. I wanted to major in soccer. That's my mind was always not to go to school for the degree. Obviously, it's awesome to get a degree while you're able to play, but my goal was to go play afterwards.
Right.
So that was focus.
Day one
was always to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've went into college. What was your degree?
Kinesiology, exercise and sports science.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's something was that always kind of, if football doesn't work out, was that kind of your mindset is still staying with some sort of, sport or athletics?
Yeah. I was always into sports and training and injury prevention and everything of that like. So I figured if soccer didn't work out, I needed to stay in sports somehow, whether it was training, coaching, something like that. But I couldn't see myself going into an office job and just being away from it all.
Sitting at a desk, looking at a computer screen.
Yeah, not me.
So, I mean, you said there, Steph, about how you played almost all your games in college. And obviously you also said there how your degree was in, kinesiology and physical, like looking after the body. I mean, that must have played a big role in the fact that you were available every week, which, as I've come along in my career, I'm realizing that's like the number one, just being able to be picked, being fit, being healthy.
100%. My training style kind of changed from high school to college. It was less about just moving as much weight as I possibly could, like I would in high school, to more focusing on longevity and performance.
Right.
So more so injury prevention, just making an overall balanced body rather than trying to overload myself with weight and stuff like that. So it's learning that stuff definitely helped me out through college and even through now.
Yeah, it's like you said there, like going into the gym as a soccer player and not as a bodybuilder, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
mean, we've all probably done it. We've all probably went in, bicep curls, bench press, lat pull down. You know, you come walking out like Hercules, but at the end of the day, is it that beneficial for a soccer player?
When you're in high school, you go to the gym for the girls. When you move on to college, start learning actually what you're supposed to be doing. You start to base it more on performance and what's actually.
You were probably better off getting the girls than I was when I was younger, but we'll just leave it at that.
I don't know about
that. So I mean, within that, Steph, you're a guy that obviously, like you said, looked after your body, was smart, had a good sense of knowledge through your degree. I know being your teammate, you switched on, you make good decisions. You control a lot of your controllables, and yet, unfortunately, you still had a significant injury that took a bit of a hit on your career, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a long story, but it started in college, my junior year, I believe. I have a lot of issues with the way things are done in college as far as the training, because it's such a condensed season and there's not much time for rest. But
Right.
our strength and conditioning coaches really, during the season, I think they were a little bit too hard on us, and even right from the start, as far as too much weight and training us more as American football players rather than football players, soccer players.
Like we just talked about, right?
Yeah. So I think the whole college mentality is we're going to get the most out of you for these 4 years, but after that, your body might be finished from what we put you through. So they don't focus on longevity. They more focus on, we're going to get the most out of you right now. We're going to make you the most athletic player we possibly can be, no matter what.
Right.
So it started in college, my junior year. I had a bit of a sore back after one workout, working out with the team. I'm pretty sure it was just through squatting, whether it's incorrect form, too much weight. Could have been 100 things, but I think it was from just squatting in general. So I noticed a little bit of pain in my lower back, got it checked out. Turned out to be a bulge disc at the time. Nothing too significant. It put me out for a little bit, but after a couple months of treatment, I was fine. I was able to play my senior year just fine, no problems whatsoever. And then from there, I moved on to Germany, where my back was starting to act up a little bit more. And then just one training session, took a shot, twisted the wrong way, and I just felt it go instantly. I don't know how much you know about a herniated disc, but there are these little cushions in between the vertebrae in your spine. If you think of them as a jelly donut, if you squeeze that jelly donut, jelly comes out. That's pretty much what a herniated disc is. It burst. Was pressing on a nerve, which caused.
Gosh, that sounds terrible.
A ton of pain down my right leg. I was in horrible
agony. Yeah.
Agony. I couldn't stand up straight for 6 months. Overall, it put me out for 14 months.
Wow.
And I was told I wasn't going to be able to run again, not only play but just run and just be normal again. But yeah, those 14 months were terrible. But every single day, I just had it in my mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play at a high level or just for fun again, but I'm going to work every day towards that goal to get back to a normal life as possible. And luckily for me, I was, but it took 14 long, hard months.
Wow. That in itself, Steph, could take up this whole conversation. That story right there. I mean, you've probably been through highs, been through lows in those 14 months that could have sent your career and your future in 100 different directions, I imagine.
Yeah, I think about that all the time, actually. What would life be like now if I wasn't playing? And
right.
I always just come back to the fact that I'm just grateful to be playing right now. Players have gone through worse, actual career-ending injuries, but for me, that was the most difficult point in my entire life. I went through some very low lows during that time, but
I can imagine.
I think it really shaped my mentality going forwards that if I can get through this, I can get through anything, whether it's
Absolutely.
football related or life related.
I think that's awesome, Stefan. It's something that I've talked about with previous guests on this podcast, is how, you know, those times where you are at the quote unquote rock bottom, you don't, I think it's almost silly to say it, but when you're going through it, you don't think of it as this is going to make me stronger, or this is going to make me more prepared in the future for whatever I'm going to go into doing. But those real tough times, that the scars you gain along that journey set you up to where you are now. Like you said, the next challenge that you face, or the next, you know, difficulty that comes your way, you can think, I've been through something like this before and I've been able to take it on. And I think that's awesome.
At the time, you don't think about the person that it makes you, but if I were to go back in time, obviously I wished I wouldn't have gotten injured, but I am more than happy with the way things turned out.
Right.
Really happy to go through that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great mindset you've got, Steph. So, I mean, to take a little bit of your advice and your knowledge from that, let's just say someone has just been hit with that, you know, they've had a little injury, went to the doctors, and the doctors hit them with that news of you're out for the season, however long it would be. What would you say to someone that's just been given that news, or has just received the results that they're not going to be doing what they love for a while? What would you tell them?
It's not about the destination. It's 100% about the journey. If I were to have been injured, been told I wasn't playing, and take a fork in the road, and I actually wouldn't have been able to play again, I truly think I would be just as content as I am now if I wouldn't have been able to return to play, but having given my all through that journey,
right,
with the hopes of achieving that goal. It's about the journey, the person that it makes you, and not the outcome. I really believe that. But the biggest thing is, if it's something you really, really want, you have to devote 100% to it. And act like it's 100% outcome, even if it's not. It's a learning experience, that's for sure.
Well, that's the thing, I think, Steph, is you don't know until you've done it, do you?
No,
it's one of those ones, like, you know, you probably 14 months afterwards never would have thought, the things I've took on board here. Yep. You know, you don't know unless you go through something like that.
And even at the end of those 14 months, when I finally got a trial in England, which we can talk more about, I didn't know if I was going over to England and staying there for a season or 2 years or 3 years, or if I was going to be on a flight back home in 3 days, just because my body wasn't able to handle it. But you don't know until everything is actually settled. I didn't know if I was going to be in England for a year or a day.
Well, that's the thing. So you've hurt your back, but like you said, it wasn't like a tackles had you and you've been done. You think like the crack in the foundation was done from college, which for people that aren't sure or haven't listened to any previous podcasts, in America, you go to college, you play you go to college for 4 years / university, and you're playing twice a week, roughly training every day. It's a pretty solid schedule, really.
Yeah, it's about 20 games over, what would you say, 3 months?
Yeah, about 3 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then
weightlifting, everything.
And like you said, and then you finish those 4 years, you go to Germany after you finish, and then you have that situation where you hurt your back. So from that time when you hurt your back, 14 months, you said, of just uncertainty.
Yep.
In those 14 months, Steph, before we go on to England, who did you kind of rely on to keep you on the straight and narrow? Because I imagine, forget about, like, you know, the end goal of you hoping to be able to get back to playing soccer and be able to run again like the doctors told you not to. I'm sure during those 14 months you had times when you were like, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
Like, who did you rely on in those times of doubt?
Well, luckily for me, I had good people surrounding me. I was at home most of the time with my parents. They were always extremely supportive of my pursuits, whether it was football or anything else. But they know that I wanted it so bad that they hoped for the best for me in terms of football. I was also with my girlfriend at the time, who same exact thing. She's known me for years at that point. This anyone who knows me knows this is all I want to do. All I want to do is play. But I think what really got me through it was, so I went over to Germany I was there for about the last 2 months of the season. It was a semi-pro level. It wasn't fully professional, that's for sure. But it was the first taste of what I worked for 20 years up to that point.
Right.
Even just being there for those 8 weeks, getting injured the second to last game of the season, just that little taste of what I've really been working towards was enough to carry me through a year and a half of uncertainty almost. But yeah, I'd say it's just a dream of mine to play, and that's what I banked on the entire time.
So it was more so, obviously you said you had great people, your family and your girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
but you said for you, what got you through those times of doubt was more so, I've worked 20 years for something like this and I had a taste of it. It's been taken away, but I'm going to make sure I get it back. And it was that drive internally that you had to get back and do every day of the hard work, right?
Absolutely. I think I'm very, very internally motivated, especially when it comes to football. And that 100% carried me through. And yeah, I mean, it's all I wanted to do ever since I was 4 years. Ever since my parents asked me what I wanted to major in college, and I said soccer. It's literally all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But that little taste that carried me through.
So you've let's go to that stage then. You've hit the 14 months. You've kind of you've took the jump again. You've went from America to Germany and you've worked for those 14 months, got yourself back into a state of, I'm going to give it another go. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if my body's going to be able to take it, but because of that drive, like you talked about, I want to give it another go. So you come to England. So first of all, how did Germany come about and England come about? How did those opportunities find you?
So Germany came about through my sister, actually. She's a year and a half older than me. She played in college as well. And after she finished in college, she went on to do her master's in Germany. While she was over there, she continued playing as well I think she was playing in the second Bundesliga for the women's at the time. So she built up some connections there, and that's kind of how I ended up over there. She put me in contact with a friend that she made over there who had some connections with the local team, and that's pretty much how I ended up over there. Luckily, I have a German passport as well, so it made moving over there pretty easy. I didn't need any work visas, any student visas. So that's how I ended up in Germany, just connections. But that's England was a little bit different. Yeah, England was a little bit different because I was talking to an agent at the time who reached out to me after I finished up in Germany, but obviously I was injured at the time, so I couldn't pursue anything. But he worked primarily in the UK. So he's at, I'd say probably the 12, 13 month point. This was maybe May or June of 2018, I believe, where I started talking to him a little bit more. He started building up some connections over there. Unfortunately, they fell through right before preseasons were going to kick off in July for the 2018-2019 season. So I just took it upon myself. I figured if I already have somewhat of a foot in the door in England, I know teams are looking for players at this point. I'm just going to take it upon myself to reach out to teams. So I emailed every team in League One, League Two, National League North, and National League South. It's hard to find coaches' emails on there, so I just reached out to the front office. I said, "Hey, my name's Stefan Mueller. I'm a left back from America. Can you please forward this email on to the coach? I'd love to hear back from the club." And I heard back from two clubs. One club was Southport, who I ended up playing for in the National League North, and the other club was Bradford Park Ave in the National League North as well.
Yeah.
So of, I don't know, 80, 100 teams I emailed, I heard back from two. Luckily, it worked out with Southport, so that's how I ended up going over there.
I mean, Steph, I've got a smile on my face because I can just see, I've been in that position,
Yeah.
emailing teams.
Yeah.
I've been in that position where there's no more options. And you're at the crossroads and you can go, right, I tried. Or you can be like, right, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it happen. And I can feel that email send. Like you said, probably sent 300 emails and you think like, surely one's got to come back. Surely just one.
I know. And weeks go by where you don't hear anything. And all of a sudden one pops up and that's all you need.
And that's what I mean. Like you had such a drive that you thought, right, I'm taking it upon myself to go and make this happen. And I think that's a great bit of advice for people listening, that if you want the opportunities bad enough, you've got to go and make them happen.
Yeah. And actually, I remember while I was sending emails out, while I was injured, I got a job as a personal trainer just to work, make a little money while I was injured. But it was in between sessions I had during the day at work where I would sit down at the desk and just email teams. Going back to your question about what got me through those 14 months, I was working. I enjoyed personal training. I loved it, but I knew at that time, this isn't what I feel like I should be doing.
Right.
So 45 minutes in between training sessions, I sat down, I emailed every club in England pretty much, from League One down to conference.
And it's like you said, though, you didn't even know.
No.
Like you didn't even know if your body was going to have it because of their injury, but you still thought, I'm going to swing at it. And if it lands, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I mean, how do you, this goes on to something I want to speak to you, Steph, about when it feels like there's no more, like it feels like there's nobody there to have confidence in you. How do you keep that confidence and belief in yourself?
It's the $1 million question. I don't know. There were moments of doubt during that time where I remember one time in particular, it was probably 8, 9, 10 months in where I started feeling slightly better. I have a younger brother who plays too. So we just went out to the field, knocked the ball around. I felt great during it. Next day, I felt absolutely terrible. It was a crash back down to reality. And that was another low point because I thought I was getting a glimpse of the return.
The carrot was dangled.
Yep, it was a little bit of a tease. And the following day, I was like, I can't do this. You know,
right.
It's too much. But I don't know. Every single day, I just work towards that goal as if I was 100% going to make a return. Looking back on it, I'm honestly kind of impressed with myself. I was able to do that, but it was tough, honestly.
So it's almost like you kept your belief and confidence in the fact that I'm putting all this work in, it's going to happen. You never even let the it's not going to happen or it's not going to work become a reality, because I think that's something that the brain messes with us so much, is when we think about the future and the end goals, we have no control over tomorrow. No, but we have this little trick in our mind that makes us think, I want this to happen. I want this to be the outcome. And then your brain tells you, oh, but what if it doesn't happen? And that's when you can shrink into that place of, what's the point? I don't care. It's not going to happen. But you had a physical, mental state of, I'm going to do the hard work today. And if I do that every day, the outcome is going to take care of itself.
Yeah. I mean, I had people around me at that time saying, it's been 10 months. Do you honestly still think this is going to happen? You know, you graduated from college 14, 15 months ago. It's time to get a real job now. And I honestly think you need a little bit of crazy at that point to continue to carry on.
Yeah. Because those people are trying to be nice, aren't they? Those people are trying to be nice.
Yeah. I didn't look at it that way. But
I think it's so funny. I think that's so funny when it's like, people are trying to offer support, but you're like, I really don't need that right now. So
I mean, it, though.
you've signed the Southport, right? Mm-hmm. So you've sent the email out. Someone's responded saying, come in on trial. What was the next steps there?
Yeah. So Actually, when I emailed all these teams, I didn't mention the fact that I have been injured the last 14 months. I thought if I said that, they would be like, no way, we're not bringing
red light.
We don't know if they're even capable of playing. So I left that out of the email completely. I said I graduated from college. I was in Germany last year, which was technically the truth, even though it was 14 months ago. But yeah, I heard back from the coach. He said, I liked your video. I sent him over my college highlight tape. We'd like to bring you in on trial, and we'll see how it goes from there. So I flew over I flew into Manchester at the time. Southport is probably an hour away from Manchester. Trialed for 2 weeks. The day after I landed, I had a game against Fleetwood Town in League One at the time. Joey Barton was the manager there, which was an unbelievable experience to play against them. So for my first 45 minutes after being out 14 months was against Jamie Barty's whole team. Yeah. Joey Barton's the manager. It was unbelievable. Wow. I felt unbelievable at that time. 2 weeks after that, we played against Liverpool U23s. I had an amazing game, and that was the day that I signed.
That's awesome. I mean, talk about getting thrown in the deep end. Yeah, I mean,
right?
Coming, like you said, obviously you didn't let them know about the injury, but you knew. And you've been told, listen, Fleetwood Town and next week Liverpool in the 23s. You must be like, oh, I hope this is going to work out. You know what I mean? Because it's such a great opportunity, that, Steph. And again, it's you said it's the $1 million question, but how do you possibly just keep a focus when you know I don't know if my body's going to be great. The weight of the opportunity, I'm across in England, I'm by myself. You must have had so much opportunity to think negatively, yet you still got the job done.
At that point, you just learn to take it day by day. You can't bet on tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to be better or worse tomorrow. You don't know how the training session is going to go today. So you literally take it day by day. And right. You can talk to my girlfriend about this. I don't plan further than tomorrow. I've got nothing is set in stone next week. That's just how I live my life day by day. But awesome. Even at that time, playing against these big clubs, I didn't put pressure on myself just because this was it. This is everything I worked for 14 months. I was so happy just to be at that point, just to be able to play, that nothing else mattered. And I just played, and I think that's what helped me out the most. I didn't have that pressure on myself saying, if you don't make this team, this is it. The next opportunity probably isn't going to come. I didn't look at it that way. This is football. It's been a long time since I've been playing. Just happy to be here.
Right. And I mean, I think that's such an important point, Steph, that, again, I've brought it up with people in the past episodes, is keeping a hold of that joy. Because I think it's so easy for us to get stuck and trapped in the goals, in the outcomes that we want to achieve, that we lose the joy of what we're doing.
Yep.
You know, and something like football, especially where we are absolutely blessed to do this as a career. If you get stuck in those, I want to achieve this, I want to sign this contract, you can bring pressure, and it never helps. It never helps you achieve the things you're trying to achieve anyway.
Yeah, I think that was a big problem I dealt with throughout college as well, because my goal was always to sign a professional contract. I didn't focus on enjoying the game. I put pressure on myself saying, I need to perform well this game in order to sign a contract. I need to have a good season. And it messes with you mentally if you put too much pressure on yourself. And if you put all that pressure on yourself and nothing comes of it, like I had trouble finding, my goal was to sign with the USL team after college. It was hard not being successful in trials, not getting calls coming in for trials.
Right.
It takes a toll on you mentally. So my perspective now compared to 3-4 years ago has completely changed. You know, I'm just grateful to be playing, and I don't take my health and I don't take this game for granted.
And I think that's a huge one that you mentioned a little bit earlier, Steph, again, tying it to just day by day, right?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you go outside those 24 hours, it brings things that you can't control, and in come the negatives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I've learned a lot, but I learned not to plan ahead. As bad of a thing it is for people around me, I can't commit to going to, even when I was injured, I couldn't commit to going to bachelor parties or weddings and
Right.
stuff, because I was like, I need to focus on now. I need to focus on me. I don't know if I'm going to be better next week. I don't know if I'm going to get a call to trial somewhere next week. I can't commit to anything. So I focus on the now, and that's it. And it's worked for me, but yeah, I've definitely learned a lot about myself and about life and the process in general.
Yeah. Picking up the scars along the way to keep you standing tall today, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, I mean, Steph, is one more thing. I know obviously you have the classic questions of football, or what do you do outside the football? You've got yourself a little YouTube channel, a little side gig yourself, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so little YouTube, Instagram page, website. I started that when I was in England, probably a year and a half ago, somewhere along that way. And like I said, I've always had a passion for training. I studied exercise and sports science in college. I had a passion for educating myself and educating others. I was throughout college, I was kind of one of the go-to guys to ask for nutritional advice,
Right.
training advice, just because I was in that field, I was studying, and I enjoyed it. So I figured, and as a footballer as well, you have a lot of free time. It's not just training all day. It's train and recover. Recovery is just as important as training. We get a lot of recovery time. We get a lot of free time. So I figured, why not do something useful with it? Share a message that I think could impact younger players looking to go through the same steps that I did. And that's kind of how it all got started.
Yeah. So trying to help others, like, again, if you could tell yourself however many years ago what you would tell yourself, right? Like you said, helping younger players that could be in your position.
Yeah. I mean, I try to put stuff out that I, as a 15, 18, 24, 28-year-old would like to see, being in my shoes at those ages, whether it's training advice or behind the scenes of what it's actually like being a professional footballer, or what it takes to become a professional footballer to achieve your goals. So anything along those lines, I try to share.
Yeah. And I mean, that leads me into something, Steph, about I'm starting to learn in my career and my journey that it's important to step out of that football focus, because if you're in it 24/7, it can suffocate you. And
Yep.
having those
What happens if you get injured and it ends tomorrow? What else is there?
Right, exactly. And I think it's almost classic to think, at least I have to hold my hands up and say I've thought like this. If I'm not obsessed with it and thinking about it every minute of the day, someone else is, and they're going to take my spot.
Absolutely.
But again, it's like, is that going to be beneficial to your product? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, isn't it? Is if you actually think less about it and take less focus on it, if your product benefits, everyone wins, right?
Yeah, you can't be football 24/7. It's not good for you. It's not good for the people around you. You focus on it when it's time to work, at training, when you're recovering, and then you try to put your mind elsewhere when you have free time to yourself. And for me, while it's still in the same fields, while I still try to put out content for footballers, it's different. It's not being locked in 24/7. It's that little escape.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm sure that's massively important and benefited you a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And your career is only so long. It's not going to last forever. 5-10 years if you're lucky. So it's try to educate your mind in another way.
And that's the thing as well. Like, I know how much of a switched on lad you are, and you're picking up knowledge in a field that, like you said, I mean, you're still on a field, you're still working with a soccer ball, but you're in an unknown and picking up lessons and knowledge that is completely different to as Stefan Mueller, the footballer.
Yeah, it's two separate things. I think the ultimate goal is to build something that I can transition to after football, whether that's obviously I love training. I love the personal training aspect. I love coaching kids, whether it's becoming a personal trainer, having my own gym, my own training, anything like that. But it's taking those first steps into a life post football.
Yeah, the next one. Like, again, like we talked about, sharing your experience with people that is going to be possibly in those situations. Because I said it again in the last podcast, Steph, that, you know, you will never be able to talk to 10 years ago Steph, but you might be able to talk to a young Joe who's just picked up an injury that thinks, right, I'm never going to play again. And you can be you can be his why. You can be his role model to be like, no, this guy did it, I can do it. Because I think it's the classic, isn't it? As soon as one person does it, it becomes real, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the most rewarding thing, just hearing from others that can relate to you. It doesn't matter if a million people watch a video or one person. If I get one comment that says this video struck me in a different way, it's worth it.
Absolutely. I can imagine that must lift. That's the reason, right?
Yeah, that's the whole goal, just to impact others.
So Steph, I ask this question to everybody, and some people always tell me, why you keep asking these 3 questions? And I do it because I love how I can ask the exact same question and get such a different response. And we've already kind of covered it a little bit, but if you were to speak to, you said you're obviously 24, if you were to speak to 14-year-old Steph, what would you say to him?
Just follow your passions. Life is just about following your passions. It makes everything worth it. Whether you're injured, whether anything in life, whether you're without a team, if you truly care about something, go for it. Doesn't matter what others say. If you have your own doubts, that's fine. But if it's truly something that you want, even if it's not 100% feasible, just follow your passions. It's going to take you far in life.
Right, because there's a reason your heart's obsessed with something, right?
Yeah.
I remember speaking to
about it.
Well, that's the thing. I remember speaking to a guest about that. About where does that come from, Steph? You know, where does that? Because that's what I think's, you know, out there in this world, this energy. Like, why do we love soccer? You know, I mean, my family put me in soccer because as a young kid, I had crazy amounts of energy, and my mum was like, I need to tire him out before he goes home. So that's why I got into soccer and I fell in love with it. You know, but it's like you said, finding something that makes your heart obsessed with it, the passion, right?
Yeah, I can't put a finger on it either. For whatever reason, whether it's people around me, whether it's, I don't know, it's something about it just makes me whole. And without it, I don't know. I don't like thinking about what life would be like.
Yeah.
I'm just happy where I am.
Right, that's awesome. And whether that's, like you said, football, being a doctor, being a professor, it's just finding that thing, isn't it?
That thing that makes you.
So let's say, I always laugh when I see people's faces. 34-year-old Steph. Where does 34-year-old Steph, sorry, let me reword it. Where do you want to see 34-year-old Steph?
34 years old. I'd assume I'd be transitioned out of football at that point. I have an amazing girlfriend of 6 years at that point. Hopefully we'd have a family, and whatever that next step would be, whether it's, my ultimate goal is hopefully opening up a gym, training facility one day. I'd like to transition to a somewhat normal life, settle down. The life of a footballer, you're bouncing around all over the world from city to city. At that point, I'd like to look back on the previous years and be like, yeah, I did that. I loved it, but time for chapter 2.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you mentioned it there about bouncing around. You're absolutely right, because especially in America, you don't often see the 3-4 year contracts, do you? It's generally 1, 2 years, 3 years if you're lucky.
Yeah, and then off to anywhere else.
Right, wherever the next one could be. And it could be across the opposite side of the country, which in America is like, you know, that's what I laugh about with some guys when, like, that. Obviously you've been to England, so you know your league probably covers half of England, whereas in America, you at the opposite side of the country, you're going to be driving for 24, 38 hours.
Yep, it's a big difference. I always laugh when I was in England. People said, we have a road trip, the game's 3 hours away. Oh, 3 hours? Well, what in the world? I'm like, that's right around the corner. It's not far.
That's what I've said, Steph. Like, I remember when we were talking with my roommate about how he was driving to see some family, and it was 8 hours away. And I was like, forget that, you know, but it's like you said, it's just different cultures.
Yeah, two
So
different worlds.
two completely different worlds. And there's two more points I want to speak to you, Steph, because we've talked about how you transitioned from college to Germany to England. And obviously I know we've spoke about this off camera about why I wanted to have you on as a guest, because you've done something similar to me in the sense of you've left home, big risked everything to pursue a dream. You've obviously decided ultimately, I want to come back home. So what kind of, I guess, let me break it down into two parts. One, what do you think could have been different to keep you in England or away from home? And two, what ultimately brought you back?
Well, the goal was always to come back to play in America.
Okay.
The goal ever since finishing college was to play in America, whether that was going to the draft and entering the MLS or going into the USL. There's something about just playing in your home country, and especially in America where the sport is gaining popularity every single year. The league is growing it's kind of special being a part of something like that. And that's I wanted to have my footprint in America, but unfortunately things didn't work out in America at the time. So every single time I went abroad, whether it was to Germany or England, I looked at it as a stepping stone to coming back into America. Right. I don't think I would have wanted to stay overseas for years at a time, just because I don't know. There's something about playing in front of your family and friends every
Absolutely.
week. But those were opportunities to the ultimate goal of coming back to America. I don't know if anything could have kept me in England longer than that season.
Right.
Unless it was a significant move or something like that. But
right.
When I was sending out those emails to clubs in England, I looked at it as teams in America would be interested in me because I have European experience in England. So that was always the goal.
All right. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I think that ultimately is like we talked about, Steph. You've done it opposite to me.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as much as I have to hold my hands up. We talked about it, those expectations of where you want to be. I originally thought, come to America, like you said, gain some experience, get some resume, and then hopefully go back to England. Well, 4 years down the line, my life's completely changed. I'm in a completely different situation. But I think it's funny how we did the same thing, but opposites.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as of right now, I'll probably stay in America.
You think so?
I think so. But I have no idea. And as much as I think your girlfriend probably loves the fact that you don't think about tomorrow, my girlfriend loves the fact that I don't think about tomorrow as well. So I'm happy I can show this video to her and say, see, I'm not the only one.
There's a few of us out there.
Yeah, I think so too, buddy. So is the last round on our question, Steph. If there's one thing that you could put your finger on to recommend to people to help them get better, to grow, to improve, what would that be?
Oh, man. I think basing off what I was talking about before, it's just following your passions. That's the biggest thing that kept me going through everything I've been through, the ups and the downs. It's just, and I think through that comes discipline, which I think is the single thing that will get you through the highs and the lows. It's just being disciplined. There are days when I don't want to go out and train like everyone else. There are days when I don't want to go to the gym. There are days when I don't want to take a flight to play an away game. But it's just discipline. It's knowing what you have to do in order to get what you want. But it's, I think the biggest thing for younger players is just building a strong mentality. I've seen extremely talented players, I'm sure you have too, that fell by the wayside just because mentally they couldn't stay in the game. Mentally they couldn't stick to whatever it was, business, education, whatever. But building a strong foundation you can rely on to get you through anything, I think is the most important thing.
That's awesome, Steph. And I I can absolutely agree with you on that, because like you said, it's the, I think discipline with that factor of the learning experience is such a big trait to gain, isn't it? Because again, like you said, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a whatever profession you find yourself in, the discipline of getting up and doing the best you can every single day is what's gonna lead to success, right?
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and no one said it's going to be easy.
That's right. I love that. So I mean, as a rounding out point, Steph, I was thinking about this the other day. I've never really done this with anybody. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or check out your YouTube channel or anything? What would you say?
Yeah, you could find me on YouTube at Stefan Mueller, Instagram at Mueller Performance, and that's Stefan Mueller on Google. You'll find me somewhere.
Yeah, you'll be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Steph, listen, that's all I've got. I've made sure the time this time. I've made sure we've cut it short and it hasn't lasted 3 hours.
Yeah, we're looking good. 45 minutes, not too bad.
Yeah, we've got a good first half in. So, listen, man, thanks again for this, Steph. And I think I was going to say I'll see you tomorrow.
It's been my pleasure, man. I appreciate you for having me on. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely, brother. All right. See you later, boss.
Later, man.